Hello there, and a very warm welcome to another edition of Channels Beam. I am Victor Matthias. Now, with the eventual release of the ministerial nominee list and subsequent screening by the Senate, Nigerians now know whom the president will be working with to actualize his next level plans. Now, this edition of the program will feel the pulse of Nigerians on how they feel about the selected individuals as well as the screening process. But before we get to that, let's take a look at the social media trends in the past week.
Dismayed by how government officials run the affairs of the country, some citizens, led by a former presidential candidate, vowed to protest in some parts of the country to register their displeasure at the turn of events. Though the police placed a ban on the planned protest, the group known as the Third Force went ahead. With the turn of the 8th month of the year, tweets the world over wished each other all the good things life can offer. For some, they have recorded some level of success, while others express hope of achieving theirs before the end of the year.
Well, there you go. Those were the trends in the past week. But joining us to look at the topic of the day, we have a public affairs analyst, Isaac Abraham. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
We also have Babajide Benson. He is also a public affairs analyst. Thanks as well for joining us on the program today.
For having me.
And also joining us from our Abuja studio, we have Graham Elendu. He is the publicity secretary of the African Youth Union Commission in Nigeria. It's a pleasure to have you on the program, Graham.
Thank you for having me.
Very well. Well, let me come back to you to get this conversation started for us. The list came out after over 50 days, and of course, they have subsequently been screened. But what do you make of the list, first and foremost?
Well, the list to me is not what we were expecting. A lot of Nigerians were expecting a lot more energy, a lot more youth, a lot more...
Women?
I'm not even going to pull the gender card right now, because that is a very, very sensitive aspect. But then, now that you've mentioned it, the number of women that were on that list is actually nothing to worry about. We have like 40-something nominees, and then the women are just like 3, 4. That's if it's up to...
7.
7, okay, sorry, yes, 7, yeah. So if you do the, I don't know, the math, you see that there's actually a difference. But then I'm coming from the angle that 80% of the names that were on that list will have been, are not even supposed to be there in the first place, because it takes, from my perspective, we've worked with a lot of them in the past 4 years. You know their performances, and you know who is doing what.
Only 12 from the past.
Yes, but then those 12, what were their records? What is the basis of you bringing them back?
What do you think?
Well, I think that if this was what we were waiting for, we could have gotten it at the Eagle Square on that day. I mean, the president didn't address the country on that day. If he did address the country, he could have presented this list to us. I mean, the president had said that he's going to appoint people that he knows personally. And I wonder who on that list he doesn't know personally. I expected a lot more. You can start dropping names. The Minister of Science and Technology, who was minister 4 years ago. I don't know what he's coming back to do in this, but for science and technology, I think we need someone much younger, someone more exposed, someone more digital in orientation. The idea of bow and go as well is not something that I'm a fan of. For instance, they denied those people the opportunity to sell themselves. So, for instance, the ambassador to UNESCO, who was from Bauchi State, she gave a good account of herself when she was asked to introduce herself. So I would imagine that if she was probed further, we could have had an idea of what, we could have had an idea of what she would do if she does become Minister of Education. The only hints she dropped was that a lot more attention needs to be paid to teachers. That opportunity was missing for a lot of the nominees who were asked to bow and go.
Let me bring Graham, who is in our Abuja studio. Graham, I mean, what do you make of the whole situation? I mean, they are saying that the list actually could have been better, but then what do you think?
Well, I think it's obvious. Everyone with eyes and ears would say the same thing. We expected more, and we didn't get that, especially considering the fact that this is like the last lap, and everyone keeps his best team for the last lap. So for me, I expected more of a team made up of technocrats. But I think what we see there in that list is a list of politicians, if you ask me. We should have had a balance of technocrats and just a few politicians. Like I said, because it's the last lap, so you're supposed to give your best. But that is not what we see in the list. I don't want to even make a huge case out of the fact that there is no youth in that on that list. It pains me as a young person. It pains me as a youth. It pains me as an advocate for inclusion of young people in governance. I felt like the president, haven't asked the youth to, chill and allow him run in 2019. I thought he was going to bring in a number of youths in his cabinet. Because that wasn't done, I feel really disappointed, if you ask me.
Well, so are you saying you don't find any positive from this whole process?
Well, the truth is, I'm indifferent. So they would need to really do a lot to actually prove to a lot of Nigerians that it's not business as usual. I'm not going to run away from the fact that there are a few very good heads there, but the ratio is what we're talking about. A few of them must have, proven themselves in one area or the other. But we expected more. We didn't just want a figure that is infinitesimal. We wanted something that is, very conspicuous. So I'll be indifferent if they do better than they did the previous time. I'll be surprised. But if they don't, then I don't think I'll be surprised in any way.
Well, let me come to you. What positive do you take out of this?
I don't think personally there's any positive from it, because I started having problem from when they almost told everybody, I will say everybody on the ministerial list, to bow and go. There's nowhere you go to on earth that you want a job or you're nominated for a job that you are not interviewed, no matter how little it is. Even if you're going to serve as a cleaner or as in whatever capacity, you have to go through an interview process. We don't know the pedigree of most of those people. Most of them are not even known in their states.
Are out there.
Yes, their profiles are out there, but what can you do? What are you telling us that you're going to do? These guys are the ones that will be running the government for the president. The president cannot be everywhere. He's entrusting a lot of ministries into these guys' hands, and we should hold them accountable, not everything the president. That is why they are there, to do most of the things. And then we're not asking them what are the blueprints they have. What have you done thus far? What actually brought you to where you are right now? What building blocks have you had that you're putting a roof to it right now? So, and then you told them to go. Like you were saying about the lady, I was actually very, very impressed. I never knew, I never even knew that we had someone like that had that insight.
Pedigree.
I'm not even talking about pedigree. The insight she has. Pedigree is too much. Like, she's just full. She's superb and all. Now, why can't we ask these other guys to tell us what they have, what they have seen, what your experiences are, what are you bringing to the table, what are you coming to do differently, what is it that you're seeing now that you want to change? We're saying next level. What are you bringing to take us to the next level? Because the president cannot be everywhere doing these responsibilities.
That's why he has ministers.
Yes, he has ministers. We are supposed to question them, not tell them to bow and go. If, for example, you tell me to bow and go, and then I go to a ministry and then I don't perform, how will you hold me accountable? Because I didn't say anything. You told me to bow and go.
So Babajide, I mean, so this issue of bow and go is not a new stuff. I mean, it's been going on for quite a while. So whose fault exactly it is? It's not the president's fault.
It's the fault of the National Assembly. And to add to what he said, the Senate needs to hold itself to a higher standard. Part of what happened was when some of those senators got up to make remarks or comments, they were eulogizing the people that they were supposed to be screening. Or you've been my friend and I've known you, you've done this, you've done that. I think all of those should have been backroom activities. There were issues. Some of them we have an idea of the ministries to which they will be deployed by virtue of what they said and maybe their records. Or some of them from the ministries that they left, which they may or may not go back to, they should have been made to give an account. Some of them did, but a lot more could have been done. For instance, the former governor of Rivers State, who was Minister of Transport, I mean, I think that the privilege that he enjoyed, he wasn't entitled to it. Yes, he was a lawmaker, but it was at the state level. Yeah. And you saw that there was almost going to be a rancor there. When the immediate past governor of Imo State also got up, he was eulogizing the former governor of Lagos State. I think that those are not the things that we're supposed to have seen. A lot of what Festus Keyamo said was good. Whether he'll be able to do it is another thing. But I think that Festus Keyamo was trending that day because of some of those things. So I
think he has let me say that I think he has a vast, like he said, he's a son. He has a vast knowledge of the Supreme Court, which was one of the things he was talking about. Yeah. You know, so you don't think he would be able to implement those?
Because they're beyond him. They're beyond an executive function. He would need to come back to that same National Assembly. Some of those things are constitutional matters. Yeah. So decongesting the prisons, maybe he'll be able to do that. But decentralizing the Supreme Court, that will be way out of his purview.
So one other argument that has come up is the fact that the president henceforth should always maybe put along with their names the ministries that he intends.
Well, that's not stated in any of our laws. So if that is entrenched in the Constitution, or maybe in the Senate rules, you have to come back to the National Assembly. Or maybe if the Senate makes it part of its rules, then we can make progress with that.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, amending the Constitution has been a very touchy issue, so to speak. Yeah. You know, electoral acts, there's been so many. Do you see that happening anytime soon?
Now that the National Assembly appears that the National Assembly is going to have a very beautiful relationship with the executive arm of government, a lot of such things should be put on the table, and there should be good rubbing of backs. The president, I mean, had all 43 of his nominees screened. No one with baggage, nothing. I mean, they all went through it. It was a walk in the park. So they should now make representations to the executive arm of government to ensure that when lists are coming in the future, it's not going to be this president, it may not be this Senate president, but future presidents should attach positions, portfolios to the nominees. If not specific, you can attach 2 or 3 portfolios that this person would likely be Attorney General or Minister of this or Minister of that. Because, for instance, we don't know out of Malami or Keyamo which one of them. Both of them gave good appearances for the position of Attorney General and Minister of Justice. But only one of them is going to end up getting it. We're not likely to have a Minister of State for Justice, except...
Well, we may do, I mean, it's never happened.
It's never happened, okay, except we're saying that one of them is going to be Attorney General and then the other will be Minister of Justice. So if the president had attached portfolios to it, we won't be having some of this discussion.
Let me bring Graham back into the conversation. Graham, speaking of attaching names to the list, I mean, attaching ministries rather, what do you think about that?
Yeah. I think it's actually the right thing to do, because when that is done, it helps, the people screening them to ask specific questions. Because you know the challenges around the industry, the ministry they're sending, that very nominee to, and then you have to ask questions to know, if the said nominee has a good knowledge of the area he's going into. So I think it's actually the way we should go. If we need a legislation to do that, we should. If we don't, if we need just house rules or something to make that feasible, the current assembly should do same.
Just hold it for a second. We'll take a quick break, of course, guys, and we'll be back in a moment to conclude, but stay with us. Staying with us, we'll still have with us our panelists here in the studio as well as in our Abuja studio. I mean, so of all of this, I mean, let's look at the issue of competence. you have their profiles. Their profiles are out there. Let's say 12 are returning.
Yes.
We have fresh faces, fresh
Yes.
names. I mean, don't you think they are competent enough?
Well, I would not know how competent they are because most of them are told to bow and go. And the ones that are returning, the 12 of them, if I am to give a scorecard, I don't think any of them performed up to 40%. So I question why a lot of those names are actually coming back. Like we have the Super Minister, Fashola, for instance. He has Power Works Housing. He's a lawyer. It's not easy. You imagine 3 ministries, the key factors, the key areas of our economy in the hands of that one single individual, and then you have a minister of state. I was looking at a possibility of decentralizing that particular ministry. Let's have 3 ministers for that, so that we can hold one person accountable for one particular thing. Now you're talking about competence. A lot of them are not even, for instance, we only know that a lawyer is supposed to be Attorney General. Now you're giving.
Well, you can wear many hats.
You can wear many hats, but then at the end of the day, what does a lawyer know about engineering?
What do you think about that?
My point is, for instance, let me go away from here. I think first of all, when we're going to have a CBN governor, he's screened for that position. So the idea of having square pegs in the right hole is very, very important going forward. Fashola spoke well, but with the increase in the number of ministerial nominees, it's almost certain that the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing is going to be balkanized. Before, in the last cabinet, we had 36. This time around, we're having 43. So it means it almost looks certain. There'll probably be more ministers of states as well. At the end of the day, one wishes the country well because we're all participants in this. If the president does well, it's the benefits of the country. The speaker in Abuja was saying that if people were watching, it's not a case of if people are watching. People are always watching. Yeah. It was relayed live, and some of these TV stations and people who watch them on YouTube afterward, they see the stuff that we're made of. We cannot continue to make ourselves a laughing stock. I don't think it's good for us.
Well, just to wrap it up, let me again bring Graham into the conversation. Graham, what's your thoughts in terms of competence as well as their ability to carry out their duties when eventually, they get their portfolios?
A couple of them have shown some capacity at some point or the other. Some of the ministers that were returned did a little well while they were there. Maybe they needed them to continue and complete what they've started. But I'm not going to eulogize them. For instance, the former minister for transport, I think he has projects he needs to complete. He did his bit, but I won't eulogize him. But then a lot of them have a huge CV. But what we don't know is a track record. Where have you put in these before? Because we don't just need CVs.
Well, if you have a big CV, I think that's where your track record is coming from.
No, you see, some of them, I think they are new in the system. A couple of them are new because we can't really place our hands on where this person had been prior to this time, what he has done well prior to this time.
Isn't that what the CV states?
And give them the benefit
Graham,
of doubt.
Isn't that what the CV states? Where they were before now?
Yeah, well, that is what it states. But then we need to give them benefit of doubt. The truth is, for me, I felt that more young persons would have been on the list. That remains my argument. I think I would also want to talk about the take a bow and go thing. I think it's all shade of wrong. I remember when Hillary Clinton, a renowned professional, former First Lady, was to go to the house, in the US for screening. They spent about 5 hours screening her. This is somebody that is known already. But here, what do we get? I think it's just the laziness of our legislators, if you ask me, because I don't see any reason why anyone should take a bow and go. At some point, what I noticed was people trying to protect their own. So you see them saying, oh, this is a PDP loanee to APC. they made a huge caricature of the whole process, and it was really embarrassing, because I can imagine if people from outside Nigeria are watching this, they will just laugh at us. So I think that this take a bow and go thing, no matter how competent you are, you should be given an opportunity, to say what you are capable of. Like the other girl said in the studio there.
Yeah.
We don't know their pedigree. They should have time to, talk about what they will do. It's not just reading out their CV, their profile, and all that. It goes beyond that.
That seems to be the consensus. There should have been more young people, but I have to say thank you for joining us on the program.
Exactly.
And sharing your thoughts. Graham Elendu, the Publicity Secretary of the African Youth Union Commission, right here in Nigeria. And also, thanks, Isaac Abraham, Babajide Benson, Public Affairs Analyst as well. Hopefully, the next time there is a ministerial screening, we won't have to see the bow and go, and perhaps we might see young people, more young people and more women.
Well, I hope we see that, but I think we should lay precedents. Yeah. Very, very important. Precedents precedes everyone. It's something that goes beyond an individual. So if we have a good precedent in place, I think we will not have a bow and go process anymore.
Hope is not a strategy, so we must work to ensure that it doesn't happen.
Exactly.
Well, let's strategize then and make sure that happens. But thanks again for coming on the program.
Thank you for
We'll take a break and we'll be back with the most viewed videos on our YouTube channel in the past week. Please stay with us.
It's horrible where this country is driving at. It's horrible because this gentleman...
This week's most viewed videos begins with a video of one of the abducted clerics revealing the identity of their captors.
And they took us inside the bush from Thursday to this morning. And well, I want to use the opportunity to appreciate the police.
Terrorism Prevention Act of 2013.
It is followed by that of the proscription of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, led by Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaki by the Nigeria police.
The federal government has classified them as a terrorist group and has accordingly proscribed the El-Zakzaki-led Islamic movement in Nigeria.
Third Sports sees the video of the protest staged by Catholic priest in Enugu over the killing of Reverend Father Ofu. The video of late Precious Owolabi's final journey on earth comes in second.
Until he gathers in his light, until the daylight glories overpast. Good night, good night, good night.
In the power sector, for instance, we set out to achieve initially incremental power with a mid-term goal of steady power and ultimately uninterrupted power.
While the most viewed video in the past week was the ministerial screening of the former Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, by the Senate.
About the LMA Port Harcourt Road and perhaps Lagos-Ibadan, the common problem between them was always funding. At the time until tomorrow, I don't think Nigeria will ever run out of Naira. I think just to emphasize that there is still hope that those projects will be done, but perhaps the business model may have to be looked at again. Because as I said, if you have authorized government to get out of power, why should government be the one buying the power?
And there you go. That's the most viewed videos on our YouTube channel in the past week, as well as where we wrap it up on the show today. Thank you for watching, and do remember to keep the conversation going via the social media addresses showing on your screen. Thank you for watching. I'm Victor Matthias.